This next mum got into trouble, not with SIFs, but with the police, and it appears to have taken a long and expensive trip to the Court of Appeal before common sense kicked in. There must be more to this than meets the eye. What led up to the incident that we're talking about?
Right from when my son started at school, he was diagnosed with ADHD, and I tried everything in my power to help him. SIFs were called from the school to come and interview me and talk to me about it, and I asked for their help at that point, but they dismissed my case. I then went to my GP, and she referred us to a child psychologist, and my son dealt with her for probably a good 6 to 9 months. She actually finished the sessions and said that, you know, he was fine, nothing else needed to be done. And then about 1.5 years later, he was under the care of another adult, and she left him and 2 other children alone for about 10 minutes, and a very serious incident happened. I didn't know how to deal with it because I felt like I had tried everything in my power to try and help him and to stop this from reoccurring. I had tried star charts, I had tried taking things away from him, I tried reward systems. You know, I'd seen psychologists, I'd seen paediatricians, I'd seen GPs, I'd seen naturopaths, I'd seen everyone, teachers, I tried to get advice, but nothing helped. And so I felt like I had nothing else in my power to try and help him. So I told my partner when he got home, and we came upstairs and we sat my son down and we said, you know, we've just got a call from this lady and she told us what, you know, had happened. Can you tell us? So he told us in his words what happened, and he was very honest with us. And we said to him, look, you know, we've just tried everything to try and help you and to stop this from happening. We don't know what else to do. So we sent him to his room. We told him we loved him. We reassured to him that we loved him. We just wanted this behaviour to stop because, you know, it was just going to get him into serious trouble. You know, later on, and my partner gave him 1 smack on the bum over the pyjamas, and, you know, and that was the incident.
How did the police become involved?
It happened again with a child that was older than him at the school, and the school, of course, their protocol was to call SIFs. SIFs protocol then is to get the police involved, so the police came to my house and they interviewed me, and the lady said, she reassured me that this wasn't going to go any further, because I, at this point, was like, you know, if this goes to the courts, I'm going to lose my job, you know, my partner will lose his job. And so, but she reassured me that it wasn't going to go that far. So about 2 or 3 days later, I was called down to the police station to make a statement. And, you know, I'm green in this area. I've never had crossed the line with the law. I've got a good record. So I just assumed that the truth would set me free. I admitted to the policeman that I had used the wooden spoon on my son, but the last time I had done so was more than a year previous to this incident. But of course that led to my arrest. He said that I'd been charged with child abuse, and that just blew my mind, because I was like, wow, you know, is this what child abuse is? And it just made me feel really dirty. And my son was taken off me from that day that I got arrested by the police. My son was taken out of my care and put into care of my parents. And so I didn't have him. And so then we went through court, and the judge said I wasn't to have any contact with him, not even through the phone, until my next hearing. And so straight away I had to fight that, because I thought, you know, this isn't going to be good for my son. He doesn't know what's happened, and I ring him every night, and now all of a sudden I'm not even allowed to do that. From then on, I could only have contact with him if a SIFs worker came and sat in on our meetings. It was like 2 hours after school once a week. We went through court and we got charged with child abuse, and I was given 300 hours community service. I had to stand down from my job.
You had 300 hours of community service. What did you do?
Well, ironically, a lot of it was spent helping mothers with their young children.
Really?
Yeah, it seemed a bit odd that I was getting done for child abuse, but here I am being trusted with other people's children. We had to re-appeal, and luckily my partner got off his re-appeal, but I didn't, because the judge said I was his mother and I had broken the trust between mother and son, and it was because I had admitted to doing smacks previously in the past, and for some reason I wasn't acquitted. I chose to take it to the Court of Appeal, and finally it went through, and they saw that I was a mum of a very challenging child who had tried everything under the sun to try and help him, and this was a last resort.
It seemed that if you didn't admit that you had used an occasional smack, this process would never have happened.
The truth at that point got me into a lot of trouble.
How long was your son not in your care?
About 4 months. He was taken from me.
How has this all affected you as a mother?
Oh, it's been awful. It absolutely shattered me as a mum. I felt like I wasn't strong enough to be a mum anymore. The day that I found out that my son was coming back to me, I had an anxiety attack where I couldn't get off the kitchen floor. I couldn't breathe. I just felt like everything had been stripped from me, and I didn't know how to be a parent anymore.
John Key said that good parents wouldn't be criminalised. That means you're a bad parent, are you?
No, I'm not a bad parent, because I have done everything I can for my son. One smack, and it just turned our lives upside down.
I am overwhelmed and absolutely horrified. That is a beautiful young woman who's a great parent. You call this justice? I certainly don't. There are a number of things that I can't get out of my mind. Firstly, what kind of confused system makes an alleged child abuser serve out her community service looking after other people's kids? Secondly, this discretion thing bothers me. Are the police actually using the discretion as we were told they would? The politicians promised that this law would not criminalise good parents. So she's a bad parent?
She's a very good parent. She had enormously challenging behaviours with which to contend. I can't go into too much detail of the detail, but the boy had ADHD, Asperger's syndrome, and had given his mother grief for many years. A lovable boy in many ways, of course, but what he did to his family member was also very, very serious and grave. And she reacted to that, and it was the second time as well.
Did she basically implicate herself by admitting that she occasionally smacked in the past?
Well, that's the ironic thing, that she was candid enough with the police to say that she had, on unspecified previous occasions, used a wooden spoon against her child in the previous 2 or 3 years. And the High Court judge discharged without conviction the stepfather in the end, but said no, that was a mark of distinction between the mother, who otherwise had all the features in her favour, compared to the stepfather. And it took a trip to the Court of Appeal before the court was prepared to discharge her. I'm finding that SIFs and the police seem to prosecute on a fairly wholesale basis, and they often say leave it to the judge to decide.
We were sold the law on discretion being used. Is this not the case?
The diversion criteria for the police, for example, don't rule out diversion for domestic violence. It's just my experience that diversion is hardly ever applied in the domestic violence or child smacking area because it's seen as such a hot potato.
In your view, is this law working?
Too many social workers, police, judges, lawyers, we're all concerned that there might be a murder around the corner. Well, it's hard to predict future behaviour, but you have to look at the past as well. And if someone hasn't got any previous convictions, like my client, and they otherwise seem to be a very good character, then you don't necessarily have to throw the book at them.